The Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived near the woods with her mother. On her birthday, her mother stitched her a red hooded cape. She loved it so much that she wore it all the time. So everybody started calling her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother told Little Red Riding Hood that her granny was ill. She told her to go and visit Grandma, whose house was just across the woods. Mommy warned Little Red Riding Hood not to talk to any strangers on the way. So she set off to visit her granny with a lovely basket of fresh cookies and cake in her hand. On the way, she also picked some flowers for her. Seeing a little girl alone, a big bad wolf started following her. Little Red Riding Hood had forgotten that she was not supposed to talk to strangers. "Hello," said the wolf. "Where are you going?" Little Red Riding Hood replied,
"Hello, I'm going to see my grandma. She lives in the house behind those trees."
The wolf quickly ran to Granny's house and called out to her in a little girl's voice. Poor sick Granny thought that it was her darling granddaughter, and she opened the door. The wolf pounced at the old lady and swallowed her whole. He then lay down in her bed wearing her pink nightcap. A little later, Red Riding Hood reached the house. When she knocked on the door, the wolf told her to enter in an old lady's voice. Little Red Riding Hood saw the wolf in bed and thought, now that Grandma is sick, she's looking very different. The wolf told her to step closer. Then she exclaimed,
"Granny, what big ears you have!"
"All the better to hear you with, my child," said the wolf. Then she said,
"Granny, what a big nose you have!"
"All the better to smell you with, my dear," said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood said,
"Granny, what big hands you have!"
"All the better to hold you with, sweet child," said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood said,
"Granny, what big eyes you have!"
"All the better to see you with, dear," said the wolf. A little scared now, she said,
"Grandma, what big teeth you have!"
"All the better to eat you with, little girl," shouted the wolf. As he jumped out of bed, Little Red Riding Hood screamed in fear.
Ah!
A woodcutter was nearby in the woods. He heard the scream and ran to the house. He saw that the wolf was about to gobble up the little girl. The woodcutter hit the wolf over its head with his axe. The wolf opened his mouth wide and shouted, and Granny jumped out. Little Red Riding Hood was very happy to see her grandma safe. Little Red Riding Hood, Granny, and the woodcutter, all three of them chased the wolf into the woods and over the hills. It was never to be seen again.
The end.
Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, there were three bears. A big papa bear, a medium mama bear, and a wee baby bear. They all lived together in a cottage in the forest. One day, after they had made porridge for their breakfast, they walked out into the woods while the porridge was cooling. While they were out walking, a little girl exploring the woods saw their house. This little girl had golden curls that tumbled down her back to her waist, so everyone called her Goldilocks. Goldilocks was hungry and tired. She knocked on the front door, but there was no one home. She entered the cottage, and in the kitchen she saw three bowls of porridge, a big bowl, a medium bowl, and a tiny bowl of porridge. First, she tasted the porridge in the big bowl, but it was too hot for her. And then she tasted the porridge in the medium bowl, but that was too cold for her. Finally, she tried the porridge in the tiny bowl, and that was neither too hot nor too cold. It was just right, and she ate it all up. Then Goldilocks went into the living room for rest. Goldilocks sat in the big chair, but it was too high up. She sat in the medium-sized chair, but it was too squishy. Then Goldilocks sat in the tiny chair, and it was just right. But then the chair broke into teeny tiny pieces. Oh, Goldilocks gasped. Perhaps I should lie down instead, she said. She went upstairs and lay down on the big bed, but it was too hard. She then lay down on the medium-sized bed, but it was too soft. Finally, she lay down on the tiny bed. It was just right, and she fell fast asleep. Meanwhile, the three bears returned. "Someone's been eating my porridge," roared Papa Bear. "Someone's been eating my porridge too," growled Mama Bear. "Look, my porridge is all gone," cried Baby Bear. The three bears went into the living room. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," roared Papa Bear. "Someone's been sitting in my chair too," growled Mama Bear. "Someone's been sitting in my chair too," cried Baby Bear, "and they have broken it." The three bears went upstairs. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed," roared Papa Bear. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed too," growled Mama Bear. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed too," cried Baby Bear, "and she's still there." At that moment, Goldilocks woke up. When she saw the three bears, she screamed in fear. She ran out of the house and all the way home. The end.
The Three Little Pigs.
Once upon a time, there were three little pigs who lived with their mother. When they were old enough, it was time for them to leave their home, and learned to live on their own. The first little pig was very lazy. He did not want to work at all. So he chose to build a straw house because it was the easiest to build. He made his house in just one day. The second little pig worked a little bit harder, but he was somewhat lazy too. He built his house out of wooden sticks. The house was built in just a few days. The third little pig wanted a strong house for himself. He worked hard for months and built a house made of bricks. His brothers sang and danced and played together for the rest of the summer while he was working very hard. One day, a wolf happened to pass by and saw the three little pigs. He wanted to eat them. At night, he went to the straw house to eat the first pig. He knocked on the door and said, "Little pig, let me in, let me in." But the little pig saw the wolf's big paws through the keyhole, so he answered back,
No, 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 not by the hair on my chinny chin.
Then the wolf showed his teeth and said, "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down." So he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down. The first little pig escaped and ran away to hide with the second little pig. The wolf ran after the pig and reached the stick house. He smelled the two pigs and his mouth watered. He knocked on the door and said, little pigs, let me in, let me in." But the little pigs saw the wolf's pointy ears through the keyhole, so they answered back,
No, 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 not by the hair on our chinny chin.
The wolf showed his teeth and said, "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down." So he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down. The two little pigs ran fast to the third brother's house. They reached the brick house and shut the door tight. The wolf followed them. He hadn't eaten all day and now he was angry too. The wolf knocked on the door and said, little pigs, let me in, let me in." But the little pigs saw the wolf's bulging eyes through the keyhole and they answered back,
No, 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 not by the hair on our chinny chin.
The wolf showed his teeth and said, "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down." Well, he huffed and he puffed. He puffed and he huffed. And he huffed, but he could not blow the house down. The wolf thought he would go down the chimney and eat up all the little pigs. The little pigs saw him climb up the chimney and put the largest pot of boiling water on fire under the chimney. And plop! In fell the wolf into the hot water. It was so hot that he thought his tail was on fire, and like a rocket, he shot out of the chimney into the sky. He never dared to trouble the pigs again. The end. For more such fun stories and videos, please like and subscribe.